It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Breakfast. Yes, in the middle of our weekend. Hope it's going well with whatever you're doing, especially with real estate. And of course, we cover the latest in property news as heard on iHeartRadio this morning, Spotify, Apple Podcasts and Amazon. And it is a Sunday morning, May the 12th. And another very busy week that has just flown by. And we're going to reflect back on some of our key conversations, which included talking to Nik and finding out some of the horror due diligence that people just don't do when it comes to house inspections and pest inspections. We also were off to Hobart last week. We caught up with David Lithgow, who is a real estate professional and also a sports commentator. We find out about his market, and we were in Dubbo talking to Monica there and finding out some information, some key information for first home buyers, and the fact that many people are moving into Dubbo. Matthew Hughes was here. He was talking, of course, about his beloved Perth and the outlook for the property market there. And Varsha Daswani, she was talking about interstate movers into Brisbane and the Sunshine Coast. So that is all coming up next on your Sunday.
Gain insights with exclusive conversations from real estate professionals about buying, selling and investing across Australia.
Tell us a little bit before we get talking about the real estate. You're a bit of a national sports commentator, so what are you commentating on?
Yes, I am. I guess I've been in that industry for about 15 years. I commentate the AFL, some of the various different cricket options down here, the BBL, of course, some international cricket, and the NBL. I was actually very much privileged recently to be the commentator for the Tasmanian Jack Jumpers games. And, of course, they come to prominence winning the National Basketball League title only 5 or 6 weeks ago. So, look, it mixes really well with property, Craig, because you intertwine a lot with these things, and everybody's got a house. We hope everybody's got the opportunity for a house, and they work well together.
That's right, yeah, and there's so many talking points. There has been too for 2024. So let's turn our attention to the Hobart property market, because it does present a dynamic scenario where price growth, affordability, sales pace and market tightness are all intertwined. Looking at that affordability factor for first home buyers right now, how frustrated are they in Hobart? And secondly, where should they be looking for their first property investment?
It's a fascinating question that's similar right around the country, but of course everyone's just got different variations on that. And I guess my background with that conversation, of course, a little bit of history. We've effectively had 2 booms over the last 7 or 8 years. Of course, 2017, that really continued right on to, let's say, March 2022. A very unusual event in cycles of real estate. You effectively had a once every 12 or 13 year boom twice in 5 years. So certainly a lot of suburbs over the next 2 years, right through to now here in May, that there's been property going down right across the town spasmodically, and you've always been able to get a deal done. And I guess act as what you need to do as a proper agent, get in there and roll your sleeves up and do those types of things. But it does feel like we've got now, and we've been talking of recent time, the last 6 or 8 weeks in particular, that we've probably got to a spot where it feels like it's hit the bottom. I never thought it was a demand issue, Craig, down here about people wanting to move to Tasmania. It was more the fact that on the back of 2 booms, something had to give eventually, and things have sort of come down 10, 12% across the board over that time. But yeah, there's some good buys now, to get back to your original question, because I'm seeing property, for example, and out in the suburbs in particular, if you go into the northern suburbs where Claremont, Montrose, Rosetta, out as far as Austin's Ferry. Those properties have come back quite substantially. So finally, we do feel like some real affordability to people. And then there's the interest rate conversation. Where are we heading? Are we going to get a decrease at the start of July? A lot of people think so. There's obviously people that are in the other camp as well, but it does feel like some real prosperity. There's a footy team coming down here. I'm sure you've heard, Craig, and the sporting professional scene, which I'm a part of. It's taken a new leaf on the back of Mona and all those things. Gee whiz, it's a pretty attractive place for people to live. And finally, again, there's a bit of an option there too for young mums and dads and partners to buy a property.
Ready to step up your property knowledge? Access powerful insights with us.
So what do particularly first home buyers that are attracted to the region, we'll talk about the first home buyers in just a moment, but what sort of a property does one get for that median house price around $550 in Dubbo?
Well, at the moment in Dubbo, like this area in particular, you can get a nice 3 to 4 bedroom home, brick usually, in any of the, north, south, east and west parts of Dubbo for a first home buyer. And there's a lot of new builds happening that are around that price as well. In the established areas, it's usually a nice little weatherboard in the south of Dubbo, and go to any of the other areas and it's a brick scenario. This kind of thing is very popular in Dubbo.
So tell us a little bit about those first home buyers. Obviously, you're interacting with them. And firstly, where are they coming from apart from those that are already in the marketplace of Dubbo?
Generally, right at the moment, they're coming from a large percentage of them are local people, but we are finding that regionally it's pulling in from other areas when they come to Dubbo to do their trades or do their training. And the other percentage is probably coming from the Sydney markets. I've sold a lot of property to families that are finding it more affordable coming to Dubbo to buy out here.
And what about the investors? Are investors coming into Dubbo at all?
Yes, they are. They certainly are. Some buyers agents from Sydney, and also following through with first-time investors that are just expanding out of, one just a little while ago was from Windsor, another one was from Camden. So putting their money somewhere else to build their portfolio. Okay,
and as far as the airport is concerned, of course, it's quite significant, the Dubbo Airport, in linking the region with Western New South Wales and major cities nationwide. It's also, I was quite astounded that Dubbo Airport is serving over 200,000 people, so it's a lot of people.
Yes, that's our area, the region of Dubbo. We service about 200,000 people, and basically like from Broken Hill to Walgett and Burke and Lightning Ridge. So it's a very busy area. Plus, you've got your Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne flights, which is taking people out, bringing people in, specialists from Sydney coming into Dubbo for the week and then returning to Sydney or wherever they usually are, like Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne areas. It's definitely a very busy place now.
Listen to in-depth discussions with industry leaders on investing options, understanding different suburbs with insider perspectives and exclusive tips.
Yeah, been inspecting 19 years. We didn't have Instagram and TikTok and YouTube back then. About 12 months ago, we started posting on Instagram and TikTok really took off, where we were receiving, hundreds of thousands and millions of views on some of our videos. And just recently, Instagram, we've gained about 40,000 followers in the last 6 weeks. So it's been quite incredible.
Well, that's great in terms of your social media blowing up, and it's a bit of a two-person operation because you've got your wife, Lazarella, who is helping in the background with all of that.
Yes, she has been phenomenal. She's put in and invested hundreds of hours posting videos and including all of the content and hashtags, etc. I mean, I take all of the footage. I obviously narrate the videos, but behind the scenes, she's actually been the engine and the reason for the huge success online on the socials.
And contracts are quite interesting because everybody wants to move into their new home as fast as possible. They don't want any delays. You know, you've got those penalties that are written into contracts in terms of the time scale. However, one of the downsides to that in terms of rushing a build is some of the substandard outcomes that jeopardise buyer satisfaction and building profitability probably, and that's something that you may or may not come across.
Yeah, look, and I guess the easy way to eliminate a rush job is having an inspection, finding a good inspector out there, do your due diligence, find the right person to overlook your home before you hand over with your builder and make that final payment. We do pre-final and post-final inspections, so we'll come out and find all of the building faults and defects and quality of workmanship issues, and then we'll tell the client to bring us and engage us back to come and do a post-final, which is still prior to handover taking place. We'll come and verify that everything's been fixed, and it's also been fixed in accordance with all of the building code standards and tolerances. So there is a way around it, and it's just awareness, I think.
Yeah. Well, here's a couple of things that I want to talk about. Your home insurance will not cover you for damage caused by termites. That's the first thing I'll get you to comment on, because a lot of people sort of overlook that. And statistics show approximately 1 in 3 homes across Australia will be at some stage attacked by termites.
Yes, Craig, and having a pre-purchase inspection greatly reduces the chance of someone buying a property that is riddled with termites or termite damage. And again, it comes down to finding a good quality building and timber pest inspector that knows what they're doing, knows what they're looking for, has exceptional experience and qualifications behind them. And then you can go ahead and purchase a property knowing with confidence that you've selected a really good property for you and your family. And insurance doesn't cover termite damage. So it is important to have an inspection prior to purchasing, and then having a 12-monthly timber pest inspection, which we must recommend as timber pest inspectors.
Know your property with us on the Real Estate Podcast.
That Perth's property market might be slowing down. Now, if we take a look over the last few weeks in Perth, how has the market been looking for you and your team? Tongue in cheek.
Well, I think I made my opinion clear on that report last week, so we don't need to dwell on that. What we've seen over the last few weeks since we spoke last is the opposite of a slowdown. If anything, we're finding it more difficult to find and secure property. There was one property that we went and looked at for a client with a budget of around 600 on the weekend. There was well over 100 groups there. There was a line out the door and down the street. And then last I checked, before we pulled our interest, there was over 25 offers on the property. And we're finding it's similar across the board now, and it's starting to creep up into the higher price brackets. So we've got budgets at the moment for investors anywhere from 600 up to about 1.4 million. And every property that we're looking at and potentially acting on has 10 plus offers on it at the moment. So the slowdown does not seem to be materialising.
It's just that positivity, and you've only got to go back to last week when I was talking to Eliza Owen from Core Logic, and she was talking about the migration in Perth.
If you look at Perth, that's seen internal migration really turn around. Net interstate migration to Western Australia was over 2,000 people, and that's off the back of a decade average pre-COVID of minus 95 for the net interstate migration result. This is in part fueled by very strong labour market conditions.
Yeah, so a lot of people coming into Perth, positivity. So it's safe to say at the moment there is no slowdown expected for this year.
No, look, it is great to hear some positivity from someone as respected as Eliza. She's on the money in terms of the population growth. We know that we've been leading the country for a while now with our population growth. And historically, when our economy is good, we do get positive interstate net migration, as does Queensland typically. Sydney and Melbourne tend to get more from overseas and possibly are losing more to the other states than they're gaining. And just of note, I saw last week that Adelaide, which is a relatively robust property market at the moment, has just shifted from positive to negative interstate net migration. And that's always a concern for the smaller markets, is they're not getting that outperformance on population growth over the long term. But in terms of the slowdown in Perth, we can't find any evidence for the suggestion of such. Our growth rate's actually still increasing, both quarter on quarter and month on month, with us doing 2% according to CoreLogic in April alone. And if you look at that and apply it to the median house price, it equates to growth of $15,000 a month on the median house price, or $500 a day. So for people that are on the outside looking in and trying to buy a property, their dollar's worth less every day that they don't get into something. So that's something to factor in if you are searching for a property and approaching a negotiation.
Don't navigate the real estate market alone. Let us help guide you in the world of real estate every day. Make better informed decisions with the latest news and insights.
It's like exchanging Aussie dollars for euros if you're trying to buy into the Sydney market. But if you switch that around as a first home buyer and you're looking at moving into a Queensland area, it's like converting euros to Aussie dollars. It's much better value. What do you think?
100%. I completely agree, Craig. And if you think about it, if you look at the unit price in Sydney is about 1,081,000. And even though the annual growth is really, really strong, which is 7.24% in Sydney, when you look at it in Brisbane, the annual growth is 12.82%, but the median value in unit is 818,000, which is much more affordable compared to Sydney. Hence why a lot of people from interstate, like we talk daily to these people, and a lot of people from interstate are just wanting to move to Brisbane. And especially in the city, it's easier to get an investment property in the beginning and then to kind of move, which is much better plan compared to finding a home in Sydney, because that just never happens. Just because of the competition and the inflation, people are just tired.
And I think you've got some of the numbers on the property market performance for April. So how did they sort of shake down?
Yeah, so according to PropTrack, the national home prices have lifted up to 0.23% to hit a new record in April, bringing prices up 1.97% so far this year to sit 6.6% above April 2023 levels. Now, Brisbane remains the third strongest performing market over the past year, behind Perth and Adelaide, with home prices now 12.82% above April 2023 levels. Now, strong growth has pushed up dwelling values in Brisbane to outspace Melbourne, with Brisbane's median value sitting at 818,000, surpassing Melbourne for the first time in 14 years. This is just incredible, just to see the growth and how in such a short span. So the future looks really strong for Brisbane.
We talk to some of the most influential figures in the real estate industry, from leading commentators to investors to real estate principals, only on the Real Estate Podcast.